Okay, so the room is all now fully stripped. All the chimney breast is down completely, and I've taken all the wallpaper down, all the tiles off the wall, all the covings down from the corners of the ceiling, and all the skirting boards are off where there used to be skirting boards where there weren't tiles. So everything's been taken apart, ready for refurbishment. However, I've come across a major problem in the fact that this room has been extended. It's what's called a flying extension, so that means there's nothing below it. It's a first floor extension and it's held up on girders, steel girders. But obviously this was done about, I don't know, 50, 60 years ago, but obviously it's settled, and that settling has caused cracks and other problems. And what they've done in the past, believe it or not, when they've decorated, they've ignored the cracks and they've just plastered over the top. This wall, they just covered with plywood. Instead of mending all the cracks, which I've started to do now, as you can see it, the mortar's already going in, but they just put hardboard across it to cover it up rather than mend it. And this one, there's a huge crack and they just plastered over it, just left a crack in the wall, just put plaster over. Ridiculous. So I'm having to address all these cracks and make sure that everything's totally safe and solid before continuing, which has given me a problem. And that's why I've had to take down a lot more plaster than I was anticipating. And I'm still going to have to take down even more plaster to make sure there's no horror stories hiding behind that plaster. So I've just started to do that, but as the days go on, I'm probably going to take down more and more plaster to check for more cracks. The other problem is that as the whole thing has settled, this part of the floor here has sunk. So the right hand side, the far end of it, is about an inch lower than the left hand side, whereas the whole end of the extension has dropped. Now, when you've got a bath that's boxed in, that's not so bad because you can adjust the height and so on, and that's what they've done. They've just bodged it to make it the bath and the shower level, but that's no way of doing it. And also we're going to have an exposed shower and an exposed bath. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take up all that floor at the end of the room, heighten the joists, pack the joists up, and then relay the floor, which is another big job I wasn't planning on doing. This corner here we're looking at now, I don't know what was there. There's obviously something there in the past, something big and square, an airing cupboard or something. I don't know, but obviously that's new plaster. But, you know, this crack here, which had ivy growing up, you can see, look, they just plastered over the top of it. You can just see the marks of the new plaster, where they redecorated it, I don't know, 30 years ago. But in the, sort of 30 years after the extension was probably built, and by that time it settled, cracks in the wall, ivy growing up through it. Did they mend it? No, they just plastered over it, ignored it, which is just very bad. I mean, it's all safe. It's obviously not moved for 30 years, but the floor's not straight. There's cracks in the wall. They need addressing. So I've got to do all that now before I get on and do anything else. I've got to move all the plumbing and so on. But this floor, all this end of the floor, has got to come up. Got to level the floorboards before I start doing anything else. I've got to take that pipe out. I've got to put new lights in the ceiling. That's all stuff to come. But before I do anything else, I've got to take a lot of more of this plaster off, check there are no more cracks, and get the whole thing nice and solid and safe. And then I can actually start the rebuilding. But this is going to hold me back quite a bit. But obviously, this work needs doing before we start doing anything else.